Aloha. I have to start this lesson with a confession. I said in a previous lesson that that was probably the shortest lesson you're going to see, and I was mistaken. The lesson I'm about to embark on right now is definitely the shortest lesson we're going to have. So even though it's short, it's a little bit confusing. So take your time to wrap your head around this. Uh, I'll I'll show you everything that I'm going to be saying on my screen for VS Code here that kind of helps reinforce it. So we're going to be talking about conditional expressions today. And when I talk about conditional expressions, I'm talking about an expression where it's essentially taking an if then else statement and compressing it into one line. And so this, because it's an if then else, you're going to have three different parts to it. You're going to have the part, what happens when the if is true, then you're going to have the part where it's going to evaluate to when it's false. So it's also called a ternary expression because it's got three parts. Your first, which is the expression when true, the if part, and the else part. So you can have expressions as any one of the three operands there. So it's kind of frowned upon because even though it flows well in English, it gets kind of confusing when you look at it because the middle operand is the one that's first executed. And it also kind of contradicts other languages, the order of doing a ternary operation there. So it's not really liked in general, but I find it interesting. I find it neat to use this, but you want to restrict your use of it to just simple assignment statements. And one of the places that I like to use this is when I'm setting up default values, and or let's say you've got something where you're in my example here, I'm depending on the person inputting their age, and I look at that and I say, well, if it's set or if it's not set, then I'm going to set it myself to something by default. And you can use this when you're doing, setting up different objects and things. If you have to give it default values and you're expecting that you're getting a string or something that's going to have a lot of those items, as parameters. And if they don't give you things, you can just assign them on your own. And you can use a statement like this. So we're doing, this part is the assignment part. So ignore that. The actual conditional expression is this part right here. So the first expression is and this is where it can be confusing, the expression that it evaluates to in true. So 10, but 10 is going to be the answer or what's returned if this part comes out to true. So if the input age is blank, essentially, you're going to say the result is 10. Else, it's going to be the actual input age they used. So what we're doing here is we're going to prompt the user for what is their age. If they don't put anything, this will fire and we're going to assign age to 10. Otherwise, we're going to assign input age, which is what they gave us, as the age. And then we're going to print that. So let's wrap our heads around this because it can be a little bit confusing. So we have our ternary conditional right here, our conditional expression, three parts. This is what happens if it's true. This is the evaluation right here. And this is what happens if it's false. So it'll return 10 if this is false, or if this is true, and it'll return this if that's false. So we use it for assigning default values. In this case, we're asking for their age. Let's go ahead and run it. So if we click on run, we see what is your age. We're going to type in nothing. We're just going to hit the enter key. When we do that, it says 10 because what's happening here is it's hitting this. It's saying is input age nothing, and that's correct. So we're going to give it 10. So we're setting the age to 10 as a default. So that's what we have here. If we were to actually put something in there and run it, what is your age? We say 7, then it tells us that our age is 7 because it's going to go with this part. Because input age was not, it's going to follow the false path. And that gives us whatever we put in as our input. So it can be a little bit confusing. You don't have to use this. Honestly, what you could do is break this into a couple of lines because all this is going to come down to is if input age equals empty, age equals 10. Then we'd have else, because we're setting this to age. Then we say else age equals input age. And that has the same effect as this line right here. All we're doing is we're flattening an if-else statement into one line that way. And some people really like that. It's convenient. If you're used to reading it like that, if you get used to it, it's not that bad. But all it's doing is it's taking these 4 lines here and it's compressing it into one line into a ternary operator with an assignment. So if you like shortcuts, this is good. Readability, it may or may not, depending on your taste, be as readable. So either one of these is fine. But if you're looking to shorten everything, do it like this, and only use this for doing simple assignments to a variable. Don't use it for more complex things. And that is the entire lesson. See you in the next one.